Hey,
it's
Happy-
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. Just plugging along.
What we got there? Tuesday.
Tuesday. You have a lot on your plate. You're packing. Anything you're giving away tonight that we should know about?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, pretty much everything. If somebody comes over here and see something they like, they can mostly have it.
Do you see something you like? Well, make me an offer.
It's been the story of my life, kid. You know what I'm saying?
We have Amy Claire Parker. She's in Hawaii and she wanted to say hi.
What? Hi, Amy.
I mean, we should point out that this Genuine Nonsense fan lives here.
Nearby, yeah.
Yeah, we are not reaching. Go tell everyone, Amy.
She lives very close to 2MB Studios where we film every
night. We film every night. Yes.
Yep.
Oh, that's fun.
Wow, so Amy, if you can hear me, where in Hawaii are you?
Yeah.
That seems like the greatest place in the world to go for a pandemic.
Yes. I mean, go down to the lobby and just tell everybody to get on Twitch.
Oh, yeah. See, you can stream it in the bar. There's no sports on, are there?
No.
There's sports again.
Yeah, there. What you drinking? Just some big water?
Just some big water.
I love it.
First going on. And I also love that both you and I are wearing turtlenecks tonight. Ooh, Oahu.
I love Oahu.
And it's been like the most beautiful day out. And for some reason, all of a sudden, I was like, I need to get cozy.
Ooh. Yeah, I totally wanted to get cozy. Are you noticing anything different about my surroundings tonight?
I am. Well, Dolly's gone. I noticed your beautiful new picture. What is that?
Well, Dolly's not gone. She's
Well,
just
she's moved.
kind of, yeah, she's just somewhere else. But um, so I had to do this thing over the weekend. Speaking of Twitch and giving shout outs, there's this website, funnywomen.com. They're out of Europe,
Okay.
and they did this thing, and you had to we did this thing called Being Nosy in Boston. I was invited to be on this thing. I thought it was stand up. It was not. You had to do something. And I needed to move my beauty fridge to my desk, not for beauty, but for my booze. So
You have a beauty fridge. Could we stop and talk about that for 10 seconds?
yeah, back in the day, so this is something called a beauty fridge. You put like your masks and your products in it, and it keeps them chilled. So when you put them on your face, they feel wonderful and whatever. So, but I have nips in mine. So
I got nips everywhere, Kel. No, the doctors are confused, actually. They're like, why does she have so many nips?
What's with your back nips? And then I got a new snuggle. Remember, I keep furry things around because I don't have a dog right now.
Yeah.
So this is a pink one.
Okay.
But that's it. Things will go back. Don't worry.
Will they? I mean, I love the new setup. Are you feeling at home with it?
Yeah, I feel okay. I mean, I'm going to get this fridge off my desk because I like to spread out when I'm on the computer. I just sounded like my mother. I like to spread out, Yeah. And like, especially if I'm writing, I like to like pull all my notebooks out and open them and whatever. So
I haven't worked at a desk in about 20 years. Like,
right?
well, I guess outside of work, but like in terms of like when I do stuff at home, like I'm sitting at the couch, I'm at a cafe, I'm like huddled in a corner, I'm like sitting in the kitchen, like
before times.
Yeah, before. Right? Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do in the before times was like go sit somewhere and work on my computer with like bustle around me. Yeah. Because that gives me energy. So, but
yeah, last year I was working on one of the bigger projects that I've had to work on, and that was the only thing. Like, there was a Cafe Nero nearby that, like, God love them, saved me every single time. Yeah. It's funny because, like, it was as the pandemic was sort of starting, so all these like little things were starting to trickle in. I'm like, this is weird, but it was like, I'm like, I'm a real writer, Dad. Yeah. Look at me, Mom. Like,
look at me. Yeah. I'm schlepping my stuff in every day. Yeah. That's so funny that you mentioned that because this is the week that the shit hit the fan. A year ago this week.
It is, and I feel like the proverbial shit is like hitting the fan once again in a different kind of way, because I feel like, I'm curious if anybody else is picking up on this, or if I've just got my own stuff that's making me crazy, or if I'm too empathic and picking up on different, but I feel like everyone is starting to lose their mind a little bit. And it's like collectively people decided it's been a year. Let's say fuck it all and just do whatever we want to do. Because like there's all of a sudden in 2 days time, there's tons of traffic again. Like people are out and granted the weather's been nicer, so I don't know if there's a little spring fever. It's like the perfect storm of like pandemic, spring fever, New England, like bitchiness, and then just like everybody's just like, ah!
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that there's this anticipation, right, where everybody's like, it's been a year, people are getting vaccinated, the world is saying it's okay to open up, and people are like ready to go. Yeah, it's crazy to me.
I am happy to go on record and talk to any of the other hermits out there, people who are just like, you know what, I'm not. I actually, and I knew this when this started, and I'm not going to say that I enjoyed it. Like, I didn't enjoy that first bit, but like, I'm one of those people when it's like, when there's an emergency, I'm like, okay, we got this. Like the hardest part is the easiest part for me, because I'm like, all right, there's a clear and present, this is what we do. It's the lag that I have a hard time with, or like the times that are just, because like right when it started, I was like, great, we can do this. I can do this. I can stay in my apartment for 3 months by myself. I am okay with that. I know I'm doing the right thing, and now that it's kind of like, well, trickle out, and like things are getting busier, and like with a couple, like I have this one job where all of a sudden clients like want you know, and I'm like, I can't just go back to, I can't like just turn it back on again right now. Like,
yep.
So for anybody out there who is feeling like, no, I'm not ready. Like and I've also learned that I like the people that I like, and I would like to only see those people. Like, I don't want to keep making, like, I don't want to keep making nice with people that are assholes. Like, I just want to, like, you know, surround myself with, I'd like to build a little commune where I can just get like 50 people max of like who I love and who I enjoy, and then we will live there, you know, maybe fish and sing songs and have little hoot nannies and stuff, and that'll be that. And I think that would be great for me.
So I want to make sure I'm hearing and honoring what you're saying.
Yes.
You would like to live in a commune where you fish, so it needs to be on a lake, let's say, and do you have to compost if you live there? That's my question.
You know, I don't think there's a have to, but I think composting would be helpful. I think, I don't know how to do it myself other than putting things in a little metal barrel that you use. But outside of that, sure. I mean, live off the land as much as we can. I mean, there's probably going to be a general store somewhere down the road. That'll factor into the timeline somewhere, because one of us is going to meet somebody at the general store and then try to like bring them into the, you know, which will be a thing, but I think it'll ultimately be fine.
Have you seen the movie Wanderlust starring Jennifer Aniston and Ben Stiller?
No, I haven't, but I have watched The Following, which I realize is sort of describing.
Speaking of shows, I just watched The Undoing. Am I late to the party or what?
I haven't watched it. I don't know what it is.
Oh my gosh.
Is the Nicole Kidman, Hugh Grant one?
Yes.
Oh, I don't have HBO, so I can't. And I love both.
I'll give you the codes.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Tell us about the show.
It is so good. That's it. I don't want to do any spoilers. Here's what I'll say. And if you've watched the show, please chime in, whether you're watching this real time or on the replay. But The Undoing, HBO, it is, first of all, Hugh Grant. He's so handsome still. Yeah. 60. Yeah. Nicole Kidman could not look more beautiful. No. And I just thought the whole thing was really well done, because as you know, I'm a true crime, suspense, mystery buff, and we share this love, right? And I did know, I think I've had it figured out, like there's 6 episodes, six. Okay. And I had it figured out by like the 4th, but it kept me coming back because I was like, maybe I don't. Ooh. And I like that.
I just got finished with WandaVision. Have you watched it as well?
No, not yet. How is it?
I really enjoyed it. And I'm not a Marvel. I like Marvel movies, but I wouldn't consider myself like a Marvel fan, you know, somebody who just knows everything. And I'm still doing the whole, like, who's this person and why are they kind of thing. But I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it from kind of an imagination standpoint and just how it was done. I don't think I'm giving away any spoilers to sort of say it pretty much shows in any of the previews and such, that like each episode is kind of like a different style of sitcom and stuff like that. And so like, what I loved is just that, like, both from the performance and from the writing and from like the amazing set design and costumes, like it's all those things that kind of come together.
Yeah.
And you go, oh wait, there's a lot of thought that was put into this. But I feel like stylistically it all held up, you know, it didn't feel forced. It actually made sense to me in a way. And then was like, oh, that was really clever the way this all kind of plays out. So I liked it. I would give it 2 Smarz thumbs up.
2 Smarz thumbs. I will give The Undoing 2 Cal thumbs. Okay. I think I mentioned this last week, Queen's Gambit. I'm so late.
So good.
Loved it. Cannot get enough of matching wallpaper and drapes.
Yep. Yeah. And the costuming, and also, I'm not late to the party on this. I was way early, but Outlander, just watch it. Like, it's a great pandemic watch. You got hot people making love, and it's beautiful. Just do it. Just watch it. You won't be sad. You
won't be bummed out. You'll
Boys,
never feel
girls,
regretful.
Non-binary, anybody can love this thing. You know, yeah. I honestly think there's something for everyone in there. Animals, like, you know, like there's, yeah, it's good.
All right.
Except children shouldn't watch that. Don't watch it if you're a kid. If you're a baby if you're a baby, fine. I don't think that'll bother you.
Yeah, because you probably won't get it. Like you're a baby.
Yeah, if you're a kid, maybe not so much.
Okay. I mean, you're, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
So, speaking of babies, no.
I don't. We have a really fun guest this week.
I'm very excited. Yes.
Me too. I have not seen our guest in a while. And so when we were in our pre-show meeting, it was nice to see them for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Likewise, it's been a long time since I've spoken to this person. So shall we just?
Yeah, let's bring in the guest.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Misch Whitaker.
Oh,
hello.
Hi. Oh, Misch, you're in a library now.
Yeah, I changed my background.
What are you reading these days, Misch?
Wanted to surprise you. These are definitely my books.
Yeah, can you read us a passage from one of those books, maybe?
Yep,
my book.
Hang on. Should I grab one off the shelf from just out of camera here?
Okay, good.
Yeah, that one has notes in it. That's fun.
Yep.
Yes, what's that book called?
This is The World According to Misch.
Oh. Well, then that sounds personal, and we don't.
Very personal.
We don't want to intrude.
We're all about sharing on this show, but only if you want.
To do.
It's just a blank page.
To-do list.
It's a very esoteric note.
I love it. Misch is a frontline worker. Misch, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing the work. How are you?
For anyone who doesn't know, Misch is a public health care nurse, and she is working front lines in Boston, and has been since day one. So yeah, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I am tired.
Yeah.
It is crazy. Listening to the top of your show and just noting you're not wrong. It feels like, well, it's been a whole year and people are just done.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a sense of that for all of us, I think, but there's also just, somebody said it best the other day to me. I can't take credit for like these statistics or anything, but a year ago this week on March 10th, there were 270 something known cases of COVID-19 in the US. They were all in Washington State at the time.
Yeah.
And that's when Boston declared a lockdown, right? So Boston was like, okay, like we're shutting it down, like 270 something, that's too many, it's too close to home. Compared with like today, the known number of cases is well in the thousands, right? And it's close, it's in Boston, it's everywhere, and we're opening up instead of staying cautious and staying conservative. And yeah, I'm with you as far as like it's not even just about being introverted and not really wanting to go back to hustle and bustle. It's just you know, you can't take the ramping up too carefully, in my opinion. So it has been a crazy year, and I'm just really worried that we're rushing into ending it.
Yeah.
I was listening to NPR the other night, and I wish I had committed to memory the name of this gentleman. But he works out of Yale, I believe, and studied pandemics, and was just talking about how, look, folks, history repeats itself, and like 100 years or so, we have one of these things, and you know, we're on the verge of making some of the same mistakes we've made in the past. And also, like, you know, they're like, well, but we should be getting back to normal soon. And he's like, well, I don't think we'll see an end to life the way it is until the end of 2022, really, until like pretty much everybody's vaccinated. He goes, but even then, you've got to take into account the economy's not going to be whole. You got economically and emotionally who need to get back online. He goes, so that's going to like really take another year or two. He goes, so really like by 2024 we'll probably see like this like push into like it's all over, and he's like, and kind of like a roaring 20s in a way of like, people just going out and drinking too much and screwing, and like it's
here's hoping.
My worry is that people are going to do that this summer and have that roaring 20s mentality of like, we like lived through it and our priorities are different and we're just going to like toss it all away and get super drunk and make out with everybody. And like, listen, I love making out with everybody, but
he doesn't. I've got all these nips and no one to
keep your masks on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so and we did talk earlier, you're a public health nurse. You're not an expert in terms of numbers. You're not an epidemiologist. So for all of our viewers at home and in Hawaii, just remember, but so I'm curious, for us, obviously, for us civilians, life changed quite a bit last March. And it was very strange. Like I remember my day, and literally March 10th, things changed by the hour at my workplace, and it was very bizarre. But from the outside, one would say, well, you're still doing what you were doing, right? Like, how did life change for you in the world of public health?
That's an excellent question. It makes me feel very seen, because I feel very, except when I'm with my coworkers, I feel very much like an alien to the rest of society. I go through my Facebook feed and everyone's like tired of sitting at home, and I'm feeling like, man, I wish I could sit at home.
Right.
Like, when the pandemic's over, do I get like 9 months? It's just not.
Yeah, I would petition that.
Yeah.
Right. For myself and my coworkers, so quick background for any of your viewers that obviously, like I was about to say, who don't know what I do. Like I'm like they all might know what I do. So my job is I work for Boston Healthcare for the Homeless, and specifically I'm a harm reduction nurse, which means I have a certification in addictions nursing, and I specifically have chosen a philosophy to guide my practice that meets people where they are in their substance abuse. So although I do a lot of referrals to detox, and I am very qualified to help somebody through periods of sobriety, sobriety is not required for working with me or with my team. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of outreach. We have 3 main sites that we work at, and one is an indoor observation room. People can come in if they're sedated on drugs. They can bring their friends if their friends have done drugs and they're super worried about them maybe overdosing. And we monitor them in there. We make sure that they don't overdose. We chat with them when they wake up. We build relationships in that community. We can do HIV, STD testing. We can get people on Suboxone if they're interested. If they're not, we can give them clean supplies so that their use is safer for another day. Mm-hmm. So we do that there. We do a similar thing downtown, and it's on a smaller scale. And then we have our outreach, which is in the streets, just outdoor working. And so in March, when COVID-19 started making its way into our daily like speech patterns and lexicon, by then my organization had been having a weekly briefing on COVID-19 that had actually ramped up to a daily briefing on COVID-19 by that week. I was actually in Sweden. I flew home on the 10th. I was performing at a improv festival.
Yeah, we should point that out before you go any further. Misch is an extremely talented improviser, actress, director. Yeah, I mean, I think that's also you're doing the universe good work, and thank you for entertaining everybody as well.
Yeah,
that's so great.
It blows my mind that you're able to do that. Like, I do that with like a desk job and improv, and I'm like, well, this doesn't work, and yet you're out saving lives.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great segue, because before COVID, I was 20 hours a week at my nursing job. It was very literally just section of my personality. I'm, a nurse. I'm 20 hours a week, and then the rest of the time I'm an artist. I direct, I perform, I travel the world, I do this stuff. And these identities were very like just intermingled, but they each had a number of hours a week I committed to them.
Yeah.
And then I remember like on the 10th, my boss, and we're having a meeting like, okay, well, we're out in the street and we do a lot of OD response. Like we're first responders for OD on the streets of Boston. So we do a lot of like CPR, and I'm wondering like, okay, are we going to get like PPE? Like,
right.
We all saw in Italy that, and China and, other countries that the nurses didn't have access to PPE in some cases. And we're not working on a COVID unit, so I doubt that we'll be prioritized, but we're literally in the streets giving mouth to mouth and doing like aerosolizing procedures, like dropping airways. So what does that mean for us and our team? And I went home that day kind of ruminating on it and wondering about it. But also my director brain, like, should I have rehearsal this week? Should I cancel it? Should I let the actors know? What are we doing with the shows? And then I got the phone call like, hey, Misch, like we're going to transfer you out of your department. Everyone is they called it redeployment.
Right.
And you're going to run the COVID admissions unit. So, or the admissions department for all the COVID units. So Healthcare for the Homeless actually popped up several COVID and COVID adjacent units because a lot of the shelters started shutting down.
Yeah.
And not letting people in because congregate living situations, obviously, giant spreader of infectious disease.
Yeah.
So we erected 2 tents with not HVAC, but like heating and cooling systems and like a pressurized chamber for putting PPE on in a parking lot that the city donated to us. One was for people with a known exposure to COVID to be in for 14 days to quarantine, because where do you quarantine if you're homeless?
Right.
Like they were telling people like stay home, especially if you've been in contact with someone who's sick, but homeless people don't have a home to stay in. So we made this tent for that, and then a second tent for people awaiting the results of the COVID test. So if you got symptoms while you were in the first tent, you'd get a COVID test, because we didn't have that many tests either. We couldn't really just use them on everybody. And then you would go to the second tent if you were symptomatic to like await the results. And then we opened a COVID unit that was indoors in one of our buildings. And so my department, we popped up an admissions triage unit. So we had a hotline. People from all over the city, any hospital could call if they had a person who was not housed who needed this. And at first, the COVID admissions department was me and a benefits guy on a laptop, and that was the whole department. So we worked for 70 hours the first week. So because it was just us, and the line was supposed to be like 7 days a week, it was just me and him. Like we started on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and we just worked till the next Sunday evening. We were doing 12 hours a day. And I remember after day 8 of 12 hours a day, just me and him, we were both like, this isn't sustainable.
No. Yeah. I mean,
like we were in such a hurry to pop things up and get things going that no one really thought like, oh, okay, like what else?
But even
else do we need to evolve?
Even still, I remember seeing, I was following a lot of what you were doing on Facebook, because that wasn't linked to anybody at the time. And I was blown away to see pictures of these literal tent type homes, but complete with beds and like, you know, back and stuff like that people were moving into. And I was blown away by that, but I'm also curious from your perspective, what was the perception, or what was the reaction from the homeless community? Were people open to this? Because I know, you know, from some of our conversations or just from some of the little research and experience that I've had, sometimes some shelter type situations can have real mixed feelings for people, because sometimes they're not safe. And obviously this is a very different situation, but like there's still some of that mental attitude of like, I don't know if this is like a trap of some sort, you know, but were people
definitely arranged? Some people were like, awesome. Like if there's one more place you could get a bed in the city. Understandably, like some people, especially around the actual testing for COVID and then receiving a positive or negative result, were very wary of like, is this real? Is COVID real? I heard it's not real. I heard it's fake. Let me see my results. Like, how do you know by sticking something up my nose that I have something? Like, I feel fine. I don't even have a fever. So there's a lot of like concern and question from some people in that regard. We did make it. It was really lovely because, so as I mentioned, my entire department, I'm in the harm reduction department. We almost all of us got redeployed. So the harm reduction department went down to like a skeleton crew, while all of us went to like different tasks. And many of my coworkers were actually the night shift in the tent, or they worked in coordinating other aspects of the COVID care. And because we all had a harm reduction background, the tents were also a lot easier, I think, for people to access emotionally, because they knew, okay, no one's going to let me detox in here. Like, there's not going to be any puritanical, no, you have to like cold turkey your way through like this detox. People who use drugs, their main concern is surviving another day, and surviving for them means a lot of things. It means food, obviously. It means like maybe finding shelter if the weather's really bad, but especially for people with a substance use disorder, it also means using, because their body gets sick otherwise. And so we euphemistically, we call it getting well, right? Because it's not getting high at a certain point. They're not using for pleasure. They're using because otherwise they will be very ill.
Yeah.
And so a lot of hospital settings like kind of insist that you get super sick and go through a lot of pain, not for really great reasons other than the way we were all kind of taught to think about drugs bad, sober good.
Yeah.
And it's not a very scientific way of approaching it at all. But our tents, like, we really prided ourselves on being a really safe environment for everybody from the streets, whether their pattern of use reflected the need for harm reduction or not. And then the city opened a 500-bed unit actually at the Boston Convention Center, and it was actually 1,000 beds, but 500 of them were controlled by Healthcare for the Homeless. So we also became the admissions department for those 500 beds. And that is when we like hired, I asked for permission to expand the staff, like by basically like we tripled the amount of people, because at that point I needed a day off every week. So I went from working like 75 hours to working like 60, which was super manageable at that point. It was hilarious to think like, oh, 2 weeks ago I was working 20 hours a week. Now I'm like 60 is good.
Right.
Yeah.
60 feels right. So that was the beginning.
Yeah, just to ask you a question. So I, watching this whole thing unfold, you had such wonderful posts on Facebook that were so genuine and so raw and informative at the same time. And I mean, anyone who knows you knows that you are someone who's like, you're all business, right? Like lovely and all business. And I think that is such a wonderful thing about you. What, aside from COVID, what drove you to go into this field, right? Like what was it? Is that, I mean, I'm curious about that, because I think that a lot of people would be like, so you go into areas where people are using or looking for a fix and you want to help them? I don't get it. Like,
And you build relationships with these people because you end up seeing them over and over again and giving mouth to mouth to them in the streets. How does this work?
You just carry Narcan and you're like, oh, I'll save your life. No big deal. And I'm not going to make you get clean tonight. I just want to make sure you live. Like, seriously, where are your wings right now? Can you stand up so we can see them? Where are you? Is your halo at the dry cleaner? Like, what?
Behind the bookshelf. Yep.
On this bookshelf in this book that I keep here.
It's in this book, in a hollowed out book.
It's super sweet. It was actually a really long journey for me. We probably don't even like that. It would be the short version is I became a nurse because I wanted a super hands-on way of doing social justice work. So my first major in college was actually STEPIC, which it was a UMass major specifically. It stood for Social Thought and Political Economy. And after the first 2 semesters, I was really disillusioned with it. It felt like a lot of reading and a lot of not making any change. It just felt like we were learning about how broken the world was. And at the end of it, I would have a degree in how broken the world was. And it didn't really feel like I was going to be able to change anything. It was my dad who had actually gotten really ill that year, and he had spent a lot of time in hospitals. And he said, Misch, you should be a nurse. You'd be really good at it. And I remember just being like, hate blood, hate people, hate hospitals, like, no, like, hate math, science, not my thing. Like, I'm going to be a waitress and an actor, like, obviously. Like, that was, like, the plan. Right?
Obviously, yeah.
And, like, do social justice theater. That was it.
Which is super hot, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You know, like, that's what all the major actors want to do, right? Like, plays about sad people. So, my dad passed away. My life kind of, like, felt untethered, and I did change my major to nursing, just kind of like, well, my dad said I'd be good at it. Everyone in my life panicked. Like, my college guidance counselor, that's not what they're called. They have, like, a
advisor.
Yeah. Thank you. College guidance counselor freaked out, was like, what are you, like, everyone freaked out. I freaked out. Like, nursing school was terrible. I hated nursing school. By the end of nursing school, I was like, nope, this is all stupid. I don't know why I did this. Nothing in nursing school truly resonated with the social justice thing besides, like, one anthropology class I took that, like, saw nursing through an anthropology lens, and I was like, that's cool, but how do I?
Yeah.
My friend Dan was helping me move home after college, and he had just got back from the Peace Corps, and I was telling him all this. Like, you know, I went into nursing because I thought, like, that would be a hands-on way to do stuff, but the hospitals suck. Like, they're money hungry. The insurance companies just take people's money. Like, all I've seen is just greed and nurses that burn out, like, having to work in this terrible system. They're underpaid. They have too many patients, and how am I going to make a difference if that's my future? And Dan was like, well, my mom works for Healthcare for the Homeless, and they hire nurses, and it's a really, like, legit way to actively make a difference in people's lives.
Oh.
So his mom wasn't in the medical department. She just worked there in a different capacity, but I applied and got a job as a nurse. My first few years there, I was a respite nurse, which means I worked inpatient. So a respite facility is for patients that are too sick for a shelter, but not sick enough for a hospital. So it's kind of that in between. Like, if you or I broke our arm, the hospital would discharge us home and say, don't go to work for 2 weeks, but you can't go to a shelter and climb a bunk bed with a broken arm. So you'd go to McGinnis House for 14 days or whenever you got your cast off or your sling. So that was really cool, but I was still really green. I was still really, I didn't come into the harm reduction mindset. That took a long time. Like, I knew I wanted to do the work, right? I'm Catholic. It was really important to me to find a job that aligned with the belief that your purpose on earth during this time is to make it better for everyone around you and to somehow bring about, like, that without, I don't want to get too religious. I'm, like, afraid to, like, preach on your show. But you're like, you're meant to do the work of God, like, while you're alive. Like, so Healthcare for the Homeless felt like a good way to, like, continue that personal mission. The first introduction to harm reduction was we had cigarettes on the unit, and we could give out cigarettes to people, especially if they were, like, thinking about leaving. And I was like, oh, I'm shocked and appalled. Like, I had done, like, 18 projects on smoking in nursing school, like, being terrible, right? Like, we built a giant cardboard cigarette and brought it to elementary schools, and we were like, don't do this, like, broke it in half, and, like, and here I was, like, literally, like, oh no, like, don't leave AMA today. Like, I have cigarettes for you. Yeah. And, like, an older nurse was like, well, what's better? Like, somebody walking out and not finishing their antibiotics, or like, giving them a cigarette? Because they're going to have the cigarette either way, but in one scenario, they finish their antibiotics. And I was like, Harm reduction. Okay, I'm learning.
Copy that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it took a long time. It was a long journey. I worked lots of different roles. I worked inpatient. I left and worked, just did improv for 3 years and picked up shifts at a pharmacy for a little bit, all with the same company. I've been with Healthcare for the Homeless for over 15 years, but really diverse place. You can leave, you can come back, you can move departments. So I've worked for several different departments, and when I landed in harm reduction, I still wasn't totally radicalized yet. I was still kind of like, okay, well, clearly we want to meet people where they are and then get them to be sober.
Right.
But like, no, what, right? Like when you think about how you want to be treated or how you'd want a family member treated, you wouldn't want a behavioral condition literally sometimes being the cause of their death.
Right.
Like, and so once you see enough, once you actually establish enough relationships with folks who are in a situation where they cannot stop using drugs or don't want to stop using drugs, because hey, drugs are kind of fun, right? Like a bar is nothing more to me than a safe consumption site that we've legalized.
Right.
Right. And I get to go to my favorite safe consumption sites and consume all the time. And so when I started looking at it that way, it was kind of, I'm now fully radicalized in the harm reduction movement. But yeah, it was a long process to get here. So I also, like, when I'm teaching people about harm reduction, I never expect that I might change minds overnight, because I know for me, it wasn't something that someone could have walked in on me 15 years ago and been like, Misch, heroin should be legal, right? Like, I wouldn't have agreed with that statement. Right. And now I have a different opinion about it.
It's odd because I had never heard of harm reduction until you and I worked summer clinic together, and I remember asking you, like, we were at lunch one day, and I remember asking you when the kids were like running her.
For anybody watching this, summer clinic.
Yeah, clinic.
Nothing to do with anything medical. It was an improv camp.
It's improv camp.
Can't use it. Okay. Continue.
And I remember asking you, can you tell how conditioned I am? I called it clinic.
We weren't allowed to say camp.
When will I go clear, everyone? So I remember asking you about, and you probably don't even remember this, because I feel like you're always educating people, and I really respect that in you. I really think that you have such like an easy way of explaining what you do. I know, and you also hate compliments.
Not a story where I yelled at you about.
No,
depending on the day, like also I'm sure some people are like, remember that time I asked you about it and you screamed at me that homeless people have souls? And
you didn't. No, you didn't yell at me at all. I think honestly, I think what happened was I had going into Central Square every day. I gave money to the same guy every day for probably 5 years. And so, And so I remember mentioning it, and someone was like, don't give them money. They just buy drugs. And you were like, and I was like,
somebody that day.
Yeah. Well, no, you didn't yell. And I was like, I just feel like these are people and they need help and we should help people. Right. And you explained to me about what you do. And it was such like a different way to look at humanity. If that doesn't sound too dramatic, like
I mean, if me saying that my day job is me doing God's work doesn't sound too narcissistic.
It doesn't.
You're both right. Like, there's nothing dramatic about it. Like, that's day-to-day life, right? There's nothing dramatic about treating people like humans. And I mean, which is doing God's work, right? Like, whatever the definition of God is, it's taking care of God's people, and that's what that is. There's anything
to bring the whole conversation even back together, when we talk about things that we kind of wish wouldn't go away after the pandemic, this concept of mutual aid has always been around, but I think the concept of mutual aid is now becoming more talked about and something people understand a little bit more. That our systems are very broken, and that sometimes giving money to charity, which is always what we were taught, right? Like, don't give money to a person, just buy drugs. right? Like give it to a charity. Well, actually the charities like maybe have not that they're not useful. Go ahead, like donate to a charity, like get your tax write-off, like all the stuff. But in some ways, like mutual aid and donating directly person to person as you can is sometimes a much stronger way of doing things. But it does require that you let go of that kind of like paternalistic, like, well, this is my money, so I get to decide how you spend it.
Right.
Which you get with a charity. You get to say like, this is going to this, and the charity breaks it down. When you give to a person on the street, you know, that's a person to person thing. And like, actually, if you're willing to part with your money, you are also parting with deciding how that gets spent.
Exactly. Right.
So,
yep.
You know, you have to trust that each individual in that scenario, like, knows what they need that money for. So
I've also thought too from time to time, because I've heard that same thing. And I remember earlier, like in college days, I would really kind of go back and forth on that and be like, oh, like, you know, or I'd say, I'm going to give this person money. I'll offer to buy them a drink or a sandwich or something like that, and then bring it back to them, which I still do on occasion. But, oh, crap, I forgot. Oh, just it dawned on me one day where I was like, just that trust of handing over money to somebody and saying like, looking them in the eye, or even sometimes just looking them in the eye. Sometimes I'm not carrying cash, and just looking somebody in the eye and saying, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash on me right now. That in and of itself pays dividends, you know. I mean,
it really does.
Yeah.
Because if your friend, like if we were in the lobby of the theater, right, and I was like, Smarz, do you have $1? Like, I need to like get a bottle of water. You wouldn't like shuffle past me and like not look at me. You'd either be like, no, sorry, I don't have $1.
Right.
Or you give me $1, and if I spent it on gum instead, you wouldn't like shoo me out in the green room.
Right. Be like, you're getting water. Like what?
Right. So you have to, if you're willing to part with your money, and again, it's your right not to also. I'm not saying you have to walk down the street and fund everybody, but if you're like moved to do something, then you are also removing yourself from their decision-making process with it. I don't carry a lot of cash. We're actually not really allowed to buy things for folks who are out, just because it tends to like create these unequal circumstances. Like they may then show up, especially since we work the street, like they're not really protected by like a clinic and a secretary, and like you have to make an appointment. Like I'm just out on the street corner with you all year round. So it gets to the point where like, oh, well, you gave Donald $5. Can I have $5? Like, so we kind of have to have boundaries.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I still do it when I'm not near work. I also recommend, if people want, to go to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or CVS and buy a bunch of $5 gift cards. You can hand those out, and they can either use them or they can sell them, and then they can use the cash to do something else. So either way, you're still, like, if they have to sell it, that's an extra step. But like, if you don't carry cash, as most of us don't, it doesn't hurt to have just a couple extra $5 gift cards in your wallet, and somebody can either directly use it or use it to barter for cigarettes or sell it for drugs or whatever they need. So.
Well, that also has the added benefits of like warmth and bathrooms and food, whatever. Yeah. Wow.
For sure.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of that.
Misch,
I had a patient who called it table tax, right? Because you can't use the bathroom unless you're a customer. Right. So even if they don't want a coffee, they can buy one and then they can use the bathroom.
Exactly. Yeah.
Smart. Yeah. What where, if people do want to donate to an organization, can they donate to healthcare to the homeless? How do they do that?
Yes, they can. What? Thanks for asking. You can donate directly to Healthcare for the Homeless on our website, which is an acronym that's really hard to articulate, but it's Boston Healthcare for the Homeless. So it's BHCHP.org. And explaining my email to case managers over the phone is always an actual nightmare.
Right. Matt is putting the link in the chat so people can find it there. Yes.
I will also, let's see if I can send it to Matt now. I have an Amazon wish list for Spot, and it goes to all of our outreach sites. So we are always in need of things like hand warmers, warm gloves, socks, tampons. So I'm gonna try to find. I'll pull that up and I'll send that to.
Yeah, Matt is asking you to put it in the private chat, and he'll make sure it gets posted. That was going to be my next question, right? Is like, I think people get so stuck that they've got to write a check, right?
Yeah.
They've got to write a check, and how am I supposed to, right? And you don't have to write the check. Like, you could, if you've got a CVS extra bucks coupon where you can buy one get one tampons, get the other tampons and donate them, right?
Heck
yes. Like,
exactly.
how these are just human beings that don't have an address. That's it. They're just other human beings that need help. They need help, right?
And we all need help sometimes. We've all been there, or if we haven't, we will be in some capacity, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so
Misch,
much for understanding that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for coming on our show for the 1 year COVID anniversary. And
seriously, I could honestly talk about this with you for hours and hours and hours.
Same. I know. I'm sorry. I feel like I talked like so much about it, but it's.
Oh my gosh!
Well, everyone in the chat is so fascinated too. It's. I mean, this is good, and I think we all need, occasionally a dose of reality, but also, I think to some extent, I can relate to your feeling about just, I forgot the name of the coursework that you did, but like, how everything was just hopeless. And it's like, that's where I feel like I'm at right now, where it's like, oh, the system is broken. It's broken, and everything sucks. And then it takes moments like this to remember that, no, actually, there's a lot that I can do, and there's a lot to be done. And, as long as I keep pushing myself forward, hopefully, that will do something. And then maybe somebody will join me. And then ultimately, we can get to a better place. And having conversations, looking people in the face, and like, connecting in some way, meeting people where you are. Like, that's truthfully, I talk about my, my massage practice. And that was always my thing, is like, I want to meet people where they are. I can't turn around and be like, what, you haven't been working out? Like, why haven't you been working out? That's why your back hurts. Right. That doesn't do them any good. Now they feel ashamed, and now they're going to be more stressed, and it's not going to help them, And I don't think we do enough of that in our lives. So I really appreciate that.
Agreed.
I agree. And I thank you for having me here to talk about all that. And if people want, I just also gave Matt my Instagram. I have a personal Instagram, but I also have a harm reduction Instagram. So it's harm reduction RN.
Great. Nice.
And you can follow me there for more info on harm reduction if you're still kind of like listening and you're like, I don't know about this, or just opportunities. Like, I try to boost other people's posts, especially locally. So if you're in the Boston area, there it is. Thanks, Matt. I like to, there's an encampment near here that takes like donations, direct donations through Cash App or just like materials. And that's all stuff I boost using that Instagram handle specifically. So if you're interested in that stuff, you can follow me there.
That's so wonderful. Yeah. And I love that you're exhausted, right? That's fair. You look gorgeous. Yeah. When you're like, I'm tired, I was like, oh, well, you look rested. No, I know you're exhausted. I know you're working really hard. The fight isn't over. And thank you for taking time to like come on and talk with Smarz and I. And we both just think you're so amazing. And
that's huge. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Will you come back another time and like we'll have a more like playful combo?
Yeah,
I would love that.
Okay.
I keep wondering if my improv brain still works. So
test it out. I have a feeling you're using your improv brain every day when you go to work. Like, I don't think you're like gonna be rusty at all.
Slightly fewer made up songs, but not a total absence. So.
I love it. Oh, Misch, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was awesome.
I really appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, that's right. We should you can see Misch on Sleepover, which is here on 2MB if you want to see her more playful, fun, improvisational side.
Yeah.
I'm a vampire.
What was that?
I play a teenage middle school vampire, so definitely come check that out. It's
second and fourth Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Yes, Sleepover. Oh, that's
a great group of gals, and they're super fun, and we all just play our middle school selves. So
I love it.
Definitely just come to our sleepover and hang out.
That's awesome.
Oh,
thank you so much, Misch.
All right. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I mean,
right? I don't know.
I can't. I can't. I, I can't. I don't have words. And when I say that Misch is like all business in the most lovely way, she is just so fierce. Like, and I hate using that word because I feel like it's overused. It works with Misch Whitaker. Like,
very much so. I've always very much appreciated and admired that about Misch, and it's something that you pick up on right away. That it's not, it's not that she's all business, but like, I mean, obviously she's one of the funniest people that I know. She's one of the most talented, she's an amazing singer, an amazing dancer, an amazing actor, performer, comedian, all of those.
Director,
and can still do all of that stuff. So it's like she's all business in the sense that like when she's there, she's focused and she's with you, and you're gonna have a damn good time. Like, you've got heart and soul on your side, and it's amazing to be part of. I've always very much admired Misch.
And it's great to have a frontline worker on who is coming at things from a little bit of a different perspective too. And that's not to say that we don't love all the frontline workers, but it was a nice, let's table everything else we had for this week.
Yeah,
because it was worth it.
It was worth it. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I found it. I find Misch to be endlessly informative, and her heart just comes through. And I love listening to her talk. I could listen to her talk about anything, but hopefully you
too.
Yeah,
me too. Stand by if you want to continue watching. Boy Detectives are up next on 2MB, and we'll be back next week.
We will. Who knows? We will.
We're going to come back. We'll come back next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.